The PlayStation 5 marks the 5th generation of consoles for Sony, who has been adamant about believing in console generations. That means you'll have to buy a PS5 in order to play anything new from Sony's first-party studios. Where Microsoft has taken the approach to let you play their games on PC, Xbox One, or the new Xbox Series line, Sony wants to make sure you buy a PS5 if you want to play anything from them. That messaging, however, has been a bit muddy so far, with really only Demon's Souls being the one true PS5 exclusive. Other great looking games like Spider-Man Miles Morales, Horizon the Forbidden West, and Sackboy A Big Adventure are all available and or are coming to PS4. That mixed messaging seems to be my biggest problem with the PS5 as a whole, along with anti-consumer moves that leave a lot to be desired with this console launch, but more on that later. The device itself is monstrous, coming in at 15.4 inches tall, 10.24 inches deep, and 4.09 inches wide. This thing is a beast, clocking in at about 10 pounds for the disc version. It even comes with a stand to position it either vertically or horizontally, though with how big it is, I didn't have much of a choice but positioning it to the side of my TV vertically. While its design surely is out of this world, I'm not convinced it's entirely for the best. While yes, the system runs quiet and cool because of how large it is, the much smaller Xbox Series X does the same at a fraction of the size. In person, this certainly does look better than it does in the promotional videos, but having this right next to an Xbox Series X, or an S for that matter, just makes the design feel a bit comical. When it comes to ports, the PS5 features 2 USB ports, an Ethernet port, 2.1 HDMI, and an AC adapter in the back. The front of the console has a USB-C port and a USB port. Oh, and of course, if you buy the physical edition, you'll get a 4K Blu-ray disc drive, though I went with the digital edition, so it's missing, and that's the main difference between the two iterations. You'll notice that unlike the PS4, this console is missing an optical audio jack along with the port for your PSVR. You'll actually need to contact Sony for an adapter if you'd like to keep using your PSVR with this device. Along with the new console is the new DualSense controller. This is the follow-up to the DualShock 4, and arguably one of the best parts of the next generation across both Microsoft and Sony. The wider design feels comfortable in the hand while the textured grips feel fantastic. At the top of the controller is a new USB-C port for charging and wired connections. At the lower half of the controller is a new built-in microphone that's meant for quick and easy party chats, and it works surprisingly well. While I thought the position of the mic would ruin its quality, the built-in noise cancellation on PS5 does a decent job at hiding the button noises. The real innovation with this controller is the haptic feedback throughout every corner of the controller. It's unlike any controller up to date I've tried. The motors in the DualSense work in conjunction with the speaker to create these incredibly effective sensations that mimic whatever is on screen. This is most well demonstrated with the packed-in game Astro's Playroom. This third-person platformer is not only a fun game to jump into with the console launch, but just like how Nintendo demonstrated packing in Wii Sports with the Wii, this shows the innovation in different ways to play with this new controller. Sadly, I don't think I've found another game that accurately uses it to this extent. Miles Morales, for example, does an okay job using it, but nothing has compared to this lavish demo software thus far. However, it does get me excited for the possibilities that the future holds. I can only imagine how Sony Santa Monica will implement this tech into Kratos' Leviathan axe in God of War Ragnarok. Sony has also tried innovating their platform with 3D audio, something that they're touting as a next generation enhancement to the gameplay experience. From personal use, I haven't found it to be astonishingly amazing as Sony advertised it to be. It's a little better than surround sound headphones, but I don't think there's a piece of software that accurately demonstrates it as well as the DualSense has. Now, with this being the next generation, of course we have to talk specs. Under the hood, the PS5 is powered by an 8-core 3.5GHz CPU with the GPU clocking in at 10.3 teraflops. For comparison, the Xbox Series X at the same $499 price point as the disc version of the PS5 has a stronger CPU and GPU. Initially, I predicted this generation was going to be set by the Xbox platform being the stronger console and the PS5 being the faster console when it came to loading, but oddly enough that doesn't seem to be the case. You see, not only is PS5 not as strong as the Series X, but in testing with other third-party games on Xbox Series X, it seems slower at loading them too. The PS5 has an 825GB NVMe SSD that, in comparison to the PS4 Pro, blows away its loading times. However, when compared to the Series X, the storage only features 667.2GB of usable storage compared to the Series X's 802GB of storage. What's even more peculiar is that the PS5 currently doesn't support any SSD external storage to store PS5 games. While yes, you can plug in an external hard drive, it can only be used to store and launch PS4 games. I would imagine Sony could at least let me store my PS5 games there, and while I'm not using them, move them to the internal drive once I'm ready to play them. For as much as the hardware is the platform, of course we have to talk about its software. Unlike Microsoft, Sony has opted to completely redesign the operating system for the PS5. The overall look and feel of the operating system doesn't feel too different, and instead is coming off as an evolution of the PS4 dashboard as opposed to something wildly different. I like it. It's swift, snappy, and way more organized than its predecessor. The main menu is divided between a Games and Media tab. Depending on which one you have selected, you'll see a list of your most recently played games or recently used media streaming apps. Hovering over a tile displays that game's artwork and it looks stunning on this UI. It ultimately does a better job of showcasing the library of games you have installed on your console than the PS4 did. Scrolling all the way to the right, you'll find the rest of your games library. These can be sorted and filtered by when you bought them, alphabetical order, or even by platform. Strangely, there's a PS3 tab here, despite PS3 games not being playable on PS5 at the moment. That makes me a bit more optimistic for the future updates to backwards compatibility, but most likely it'll be tied to something like PS Now titles. Speaking of services, along with PlayStation Plus, you'll now get an instant game collection of some of PlayStation's best offerings from last generation. Think of it like a mini PlayStation Game Pass, something I hope gets fleshed out over the years. At least those PS4 games with uncapped frame rates will get a much better performance on PS5, like the recently updated God of War and Ghost of Tsushima with 60 FPS modes on PlayStation 5. Now at the top right of the menu is a search option that works similar to search on most smartphones, letting you look through your console and the online store instantaneously. System settings looks familiar if you have a PS4, but some great new default options let you toggle certain features console side, like inverted controls, performance or resolution modes by default, and so on. Now while you're in a game, pressing the PlayStation button no longer brings you back to the main menu, but instead brings up what Sony is calling the control center. Think of it as a quick toggle list of different system-wide features without leaving your actual game. Seeing your friends list, managing your voice parties, or just checking system notifications. It's all a lot quicker and easier. A new feature with this is the tips that come up for PlayStation Plus users. These tips are designed by the game developers to help you unlock a trophy or get through a level that you might be stuck on. It's a nifty tool that cuts out the middleman of YouTube searching what you have to do next on some hour-long walkthrough. Lastly, I want to talk about PlayStation 5's pro-consumer moves, or rather lack thereof. Make for the Microsoft Smart Delivery feature term all you want, but at the end of the day, knowing I'm getting the best version of a game for the console I downloaded it to is a great peace of mind and something that should just work. The same can't be said for the PS5. Strangely, buying a cross-gen game like Call of Duty Cold War that gives you the option to buy both a bundle of the PS4 and PS5 version will download both games to your PS5 and could default to playing the PS4 version over the PS5 on the PS5 console. To the average consumer, they wouldn't know they'd have to toggle an option to run the PS5 version over the PS4 version, or just delete the PS4 version entirely. Sadly, some users are even reporting bugs with the console that are preventing them from even downloading the PS5 version in this bundle, running into an endless download queue issue. Ultimately, the PS5 feels like it's at an odd point for me. Where Sony up to this point has made it their goal to sell their consoles with their exclusives, they just launched a new console with most of their games being cross-gen outside of Demon's Souls. They also lack a lot of the pro-consumer features their competitors offer. I already own Spider-Man on PS4 digitally, why am I being charged for a PS5 upgrade? Why can't I store my PS5 games on an external hard drive, and if this SSD tech is so great that expandable storage isn't even available on the market, how come I can't load my games faster or just switch between them as fast as my Series X? At its launch, the PS5 feels like a glorified $500 Demon's Souls machine, which to some people will be enough. For everyone else, if you have a PS4 already, you can play just about everything else, albeit without the next generation features such as faster loading times, better performance, and ray tracing. That could arguably be said the same for Microsoft's platforms, although it's easier to recommend a console where your current purchases move forward with the next generation, and that just isn't the case here with PS5. I have without a doubt that in a year or two's time when God of War Ragnarok and all the other unannounced Sony titles come exclusively to PS5, it'll make picking one up way more worth it. However, at launch, there's very little reason to pick up a PS5 when it's the weaker and slower of the competition, and doesn't offer the return on investment that Smart Delivery or Game Pass offers.